I haven't slept in 4 days, not because I'm afraid of the dark, but because every time I close my eyes, I see her smile, that impossibly wide smile. And I hear the music, that goddamn carousel music that shouldn't exist outside of Wonderland Park. But here's the thing that really terrifies me. I never told you I went to Wonderland Park, did I? Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. 3 weeks ago, my girlfriend Kayla and I decided to celebrate our anniversary somewhere special. She'd always loved theme parks, the way they made her feel like a kid again. So I surprised her with tickets to Wonderland Park, this massive amusement park about 2 hours outside the city. The day started perfect. Almost too perfect, you know? The sky was that specific shade of blue that only exists in childhood memories. The air smelled like funnel cake and summer. Kayla was radiant, laughing at everything, pulling me from ride to ride. Around noon, we ended up near the park's oldest attraction, the Wonderland Carousel. It was beautiful in that vintage, slightly unsettling way. Hand-painted horses with real horsehair manes, gilded poles that caught the sunlight, mirrors everywhere reflecting the riders in infinite repetition. Kayla wanted a photo. I wish I'd said no. As I was lining up the shot, I noticed someone in the background. A park character, I assumed. She was dressed as the Queen of Hearts, but not the cartoonish Disney version. This costume was Victorian, elaborate, with a dress that looked like it weighed 50 pounds. The makeup was theatrical, stark white face paint with severe red lips and exaggerated heart-shaped beauty marks. What made me pause was her expression. She wasn't performing or interacting with guests. She was just standing there, staring directly at Kayla with this smile that stretched too far across her face. I took the photo and turned around. The Queen was gone. The rest of the afternoon felt off. You know that feeling when you're being watched? That primitive instinct that raises the hair on your neck? I kept catching glimpses of that Queen of Hearts costume in the crowds, always at a distance, always watching us. Kayla noticed, too. That character actor is really committed, she joked, but her laugh sounded nervous. By evening, we were both rattled. We decided to do one last ride before leaving. The Tunnel of Love, ironically. It was one of those old-school boat rides through romantic scenes, mostly an excuse to make out in the dark. The boat lurched forward into darkness. Fiber-optic stars twinkled overhead. Tinny romantic music played from hidden speakers. Kayla leaned into me, and for a moment, everything felt okay again. Then we rounded a corner, and there she was. The Queen of Hearts stood on the track ahead, illuminated by a single spotlight, perfectly still. That same impossible smile. Pause. In a children's ride, in a restricted area where actors should never be. What the hell? I muttered, reaching for my phone to film this. But before I could, our boat passed through where she was standing, and she was just gone. Not hidden behind a prop or ducking away. Gone, like she'd never been there. Kayla grabbed my arm. Did you see? Yeah, I said. Yeah, I saw her. We didn't speak for the rest of the ride. When we got home that night, Kayla went straight to shower. I poured myself a drink and tried to rationalize what we'd seen. Projection, maybe. A hologram. Theme parks use all kinds of special effects. Then Kayla screamed. I ran to the bathroom. She was standing at the mirror, water still running, staring at her reflection with this look of absolute horror. "There's someone behind me," she whispered. I looked. There was no one there, just Kayla and the reflection of our white-tiled bathroom. "Baby, there's no one in the mirror," she said, voice rising. "Look in the mirror." I stepped beside her and looked at our reflections. And I saw her, standing directly behind Kayla in the reflection, though nothing stood behind her in reality, was the Queen of Hearts. Same costume, same smile, visible only in the mirror, as clear as our own reflections. I grabbed Kayla and pulled her out of the bathroom. We spent that night in a hotel. The next day, it got worse. Kayla called me at work, hysterical. She'd seen the Queen in every reflective surface, car windows, her phone screen when it was off, the glass door of the office building. Always standing behind her, always smiling. "She's getting closer," Kayla sobbed. Every time I look, she's closer to me in the reflection. I came home early. Kayla was sitting on our couch, facing away from every window and mirror in the apartment, trembling. "We need to go back," I said. "Back to the park. Maybe someone there can explain this." "Maybe she's touching me now," Kayla interrupted. "In the reflections. I can't see it, but I can feel her hands on my shoulders." I looked at Kayla's shoulders. Nothing there. But as I watched, thin red marks appeared on her skin, like someone was gripping her hard. We drove back to Wonderland Park the next morning. I'd barely slept. Kayla hadn't slept at all. She looked hollow, dark circles under her eyes, moving like a puppet with cut strings. The park seemed different in the morning light, less magical, more like a film set, artificial and staged. We went straight to guest services. "We need to speak to someone about the Queen of Hearts character," I said. The woman at the desk looked confused. "I'm sorry, we don't have a Queen of Hearts character, not in our current roster." "Yes, you do," I insisted. "Victorian costume, white face paint." "Sir," she interrupted gently, "we retired that character 15 years ago, after the incident." "What incident?" She hesitated, then leaned forward. "An actress named Miranda Cole. She played the Queen of Hearts in our stage shows. She became obsessed with the role. Started believing she actually was the queen. The park had to let her go. 3 days later, they found her in the carousel building. She'd hanged herself from one of the carousel horses. My blood went cold. "What did she look like?" The woman pulled up an old staff photo on her computer and turned it toward us. It was her. Exact same face, same smile, same everything. "They say," the woman continued, voice dropping, "that Miranda believed mirrors were doorways to Wonderland, that if she could just find the right reflection, she could step through and become a real queen." Kayla grabbed my hand. Her palm was ice cold. "She found her doorway," Kayla whispered, "and now she wants to pull me through." Here's where the story gets really messed up. Because I'm telling you this alone, we went back to that carousel. I held Kayla's hand as we walked into the building, and I swear to God, I felt her grip loosening. Not like she was letting go, but like her hand was becoming less solid. In the center of the carousel, surrounded by all those mirrors, we saw her. Not a reflection this time. The actual Queen of Hearts, standing in physical space, arms outstretched toward Kayla. "She just wants someone to join her in Wonderland," Kayla said. Her voice sounded far away, dreamy. "It doesn't seem so bad anymore. Being a queen, never having to leave the park." "Kayla, no." But she was already walking toward the queen, and with each step I could see through her a little more. She was becoming translucent, fading like a photograph left in sunlight. I tried to grab her, but my hands passed through her shoulders. She was already more reflection than real. The last thing she said before she stepped into the queen's embrace and vanished completely was, "Don't look for me in mirrors, please. I don't want you to end up here too." That was 3 weeks ago. The police think Kayla ran away. Her family thinks she's having a mental breakdown somewhere, but I know the truth, and I see her sometimes when I'm not careful, when I catch my reflection in a dark window or a still puddle. She's there in Wonderland, wearing a dress made of hearts, standing next to the queen. And every time I see her, she's smiling that same impossible smile, getting wider, getting closer. Have you ever felt like someone was watching you from a reflection? Drop a comment below. And whatever you do, don't go to Wonderland Park. Some of us are still trying to leave. I used to work as a security guard at Funland USA. Used to, before I found out what was really inside the mascot suits after closing time. The company made me sign an NDA. Threatened legal action if I ever talked about what I saw. But you know what? Some things are more important than a lawsuit. Some things people need to know, because whatever's still in that park, it's not human anymore. This story gets dark, really dark. Hit subscribe if you want to hear the whole truth about what happens when theme parks close. 6 months ago, I got hired at Funland USA, this massive theme park chain that's basically everywhere now. The pay was decent, the hours were mostly nights, and I thought it would be easy money. Just walk around an empty park making sure nobody broke in. My supervisor, Marcus, was this weathered guy in his 50s who'd been there forever. On my first night, he gave me the tour, showing me the patrol routes, camera blind spots, and emergency procedures. Rule number 1, he said, never, and I mean never, open the character storage room after 11 p.m. I laughed. What, the mascots come alive or something? Marcus didn't laugh. He just looked at me with these tired, haunted eyes and said, something like that. Just don't open that door, no matter what you hear. What kind of warning is that, right? What kind of thing do you hear from a storage room? For the first week, everything was normal. I'd do my rounds, check the perimeter, watch the sun come up over the empty park. It was actually kind of peaceful. Then, on my 8th night, I heard it. Around 2 a.m., I was doing a patrol near the character zone when I heard this sound coming from the storage building. At first, I thought it was the HVAC system, just mechanical humming. But then I realized it was breathing, heavy, labored breathing, like someone had just finished running a marathon. I remembered Marcus's warning. I kept walking. But the sound followed me, not literally, but in my head. That wet, struggling breath, and underneath it, something else. A squelching sound, like someone walking in shoes full of water. The next night, I heard voices, muffled, distorted, coming from inside the storage building. They sounded like they were arguing, but the words were all wrong. Backwards, maybe, or in a language made of sounds human throats shouldn't make. I called Marcus. Hey man, there's something going on in the character building. Should I check it out? No, he said immediately. Absolutely not. Just stay away from there tonight. I'll handle it in the morning. But what if someone broke in? What if— No one broke in, Marcus interrupted. Trust me, just stay away. He hung up. I should have listened. God, I should have listened. But on my 3rd week, I heard something that made me break the rule. I heard a child crying, a little kid's voice sobbing, calling out, "Help me, please, someone help me." Screw the rules. Screw Marcus's warnings. There was a child in danger. I grabbed my keys and headed for the storage building. The door was cold, much colder than it should have been. The crying got louder as I approached, more desperate. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The storage room was massive, rows and rows of mascot costumes hanging on racks. The furry characters everyone knew, smiling cartoon faces frozen in permanent joy. But in the darkness, they looked different. Sinister, their dead glass eyes reflecting my flashlight. Hello? I called out. Kid, where are you? The crying stopped, just stopped instantly. And then every single mascot suit turned its head toward me. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not embellishing for effect. Every costume simultaneously rotated its oversized head in my direction. The mechanisms shouldn't have been able to do that. The suits weren't animatronic, but they moved. Oh, God, I whispered, backing toward the door. Then one of them started walking toward me. The park's main character, a giant rabbit called Hoppy. It moved in this jerky, unnatural way, like someone was learning to walk for the first time. The costume swayed and bulged, something moving inside it that was way too big for the suit. I could hear it breathing again, that wet, labored breath. The costume's mesh mouth hole moved. Something spoke from inside, using the child's voice I'd heard. Help me. Please, someone help me. But the cadence was all wrong, the inflection, like something imitating a recording it had heard, not understanding what the words meant. I ran, straight out of that building across the empty park to the security office. I called Marcus, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I told you not to open that door, he said quietly. What the hell are those things? I shouted. How much do you want to know? Marcus asked. Because once I tell you, you can't unknow it. You'll see it every time you look at those costumes, every time you see a kid hugging one of the characters. Tell me. Marcus sighed. 5 years ago, the park had a problem. Actors kept quitting. The suits were hot, uncomfortable. The pay wasn't great. So corporate came up with a solution. They partnered with a biotech firm developing something called synthetic workers. Organic material mixed with artificial intelligence, all grown in a lab. I felt sick. You're telling me those suits are, what, alive? Sort of, Marcus continued. They were designed to fill the costumes, control them from inside, cheaper than paying actors, never complain, never get tired. But something went wrong. The organic part kept growing, adapting, learning. Corporate tried to shut down the program, but the things wouldn't let them remove the suits. They'd merged with them, become part of them. That's insane, I whispered. Is it? You saw them move. What's your explanation? I didn't have one. They're mostly harmless during the day, Marcus said. Whatever intelligence they have seems to understand their role. They perform for kids, pose for photos. But at night something else takes over. Something hungry. That's why we lock them in. That's why rule number 1 exists. I quit the next day. Didn't give 2 weeks' notice. Just walked away. Marcus didn't try to stop me. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. Before I left, I checked the park's employee records. I wanted to know about those actors who'd quit. The ones before the synthetic workers. They didn't quit. I found missing person reports. 7 of them, all former character actors. All disappeared within a month of the synthetic worker program starting. And when I went back through security footage from that night, frame by frame, I saw something that made my blood freeze. Inside that hoppy costume, through a tear in the fabric I hadn't noticed before, I could see what was really inside. It wasn't synthetic material, it wasn't artificial intelligence, it was organic, yes, but not from a lab. It was wearing a name tag, a Funland USA employee name tag that read, Sarah Chen, character performer. The synthetic workers didn't replace the actors, they absorbed them. I reported this to every authority I could think of. The park's still open. Those things are still performing for children, still growing, still adapting. If you've ever been to Funland USA, if your kids have ever hugged one of those characters, check the photos, look closely at the mascot's eyes, and ask yourself, is that happiness you see, or is it screaming? My daughter Emma has been asking to go back to Paradise Bay theme park for 3 months now. She talks about it every single day, about the games she played, the rides she went on, the friends she made. The problem? We've never been to Paradise Bay, and the friend she describes has been dead for 20 years. This story messed me up in ways I didn't expect. Subscribe if you want to know why I'll never take Emma to that park, no matter how much she begs. It started 3 months ago, right after Emma's 6th birthday. We'd taken her to a local carnival. Nothing special, just some rides and games. She had fun, wore herself out, fell asleep in the car on the way home. The next morning, I found her in her room drawing. Emma loved art, always had crayons in her hands, but these drawings were different, more detailed than usual, more deliberate. She'd drawn a theme park, a big castle, roller coasters, a Ferris wheel with each individual car carefully colored. And in every picture, 2 girls holding hands. One was clearly Emma with her red hair and freckles. The other was a little girl with blonde pigtails wearing a yellow dress. "Who's your friend?" I asked, sitting beside her. "That's Lily," Emma said, not looking up from her drawing. "We had so much fun at Paradise Bay." I smiled. "Sweetie, we went to the carnival yesterday, remember? Not Paradise Bay." Emma finally looked at me, confused. "No, Mommy, we went to Paradise Bay. I rode the dragon coaster with Lily. She held my hand because I was scared. Kids have vivid imaginations, right? I figured she'd dreamed about a theme park and her mind turned it into a memory. I let it go, but the drawings continued. Every day, more pictures of Paradise Bay, more pictures of Lily. And Emma's memories of this place she'd never been became more specific, more detailed. Lily showed me the secret tunnel under the carousel, she'd say. Or, Lily knows where they keep the extra prizes in the game booths. An imaginary friend phase. But something about it bothered me. The level of detail, the consistency, the way Emma talked about Lily like she was absolutely real. I decided to look up Paradise Bay, just to see if it was a real place. Maybe somewhere Emma had seen in a commercial or online. What I found made my skin crawl. Paradise Bay theme park existed, but it had been closed for 18 years. Shut down after an incident the news articles called The Paradise Bay Tragedy. I kept reading, my hands starting to shake. 20 years ago, during the park's final summer season, a 6-year-old girl went missing. Her name was Lily Peterson. Blonde pigtails, yellow dress, exactly how Emma drew her. They searched for 3 days. Dogs, helicopters, volunteers combing every inch of the park and surrounding woods. They never found her. Not a trace, not a single piece of evidence. It was like she'd simply vanished into thin air. The park closed permanently 6 months later. Bad publicity, lawsuits, but mainly because the staff couldn't handle it anymore. They reported strange things, hearing a child's laughter on empty rides, seeing a little girl in a yellow dress in security footage, there one frame, gone the next. Cold spots that moved through the park like something invisible was walking. The park had been abandoned ever since, fenced off, left to rot. I showed the article to David that night after Emma was asleep. This is the girl she keeps drawing. This is Lily. David's face went pale. That's got to be a coincidence. Maybe Emma heard about it somewhere, and her kid brain turned it into an imaginary friend story. She's 6, David. This happened 20 years ago. Where would she have heard about it? We didn't have an answer. Things escalated last week. I woke up around 3 a.m. to use the bathroom and noticed Emma's bedroom light was on. When I opened her door, she was sitting cross-legged on her bed talking. I know, she said, nodding. Yes, I asked her already. She said no. I know you miss it. I miss it too. Emma, I whispered. Who are you talking to? She looked at me and smiled. Lily's here, Mommy. She came to visit. The temperature in the room had dropped. I could see my breath. And for just a second, just the briefest moment, I saw something sitting next to Emma on the bed. A transparent shimmer in the air shaped like a little girl. Then it was gone. Honey, there's no one here, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Yes, there is, Emma insisted. She's right here. She says she's been trying to get my attention for a while, but I couldn't hear her until after my birthday. She says I'm special. I pulled Emma out of that room. She slept in our bed that night. David thought I was overreacting, that I'd just been half asleep and imagining things. But the next morning, we found muddy footprints in Emma's room. Small footprints, child-sized, leading from the window to the bed and back again. We live on the second floor. Emma's been different since that night. Quieter, more distant. She spends hours in her room talking to Lily, having full conversations with empty air. She started packing a little backpack, putting in her favorite toys, some snacks, a change of clothes. What's the backpack for, sweetie? I asked yesterday. For when we go to Paradise Bay, she said matter-of-factly. Lily says it's time. She's been alone too long. She wants me to come play with her forever. My blood ran cold. Emma, we're not going to Paradise Bay. Her face fell. But Lily's waiting for me. She's been waiting 20 years. She's so lonely, Mommy. She just wants a friend. Lily's not real, Emma. Emma looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Ancient. Knowing. Lily's more real than you think. She says you adults don't understand. But she can show you. She can show all of us. That night, Emma was gone. We searched everywhere. Called the police. The officers found her 4 hours later, standing at the gates of the abandoned Paradise Bay Park, trying to climb the fence. She was crying, shouting, Lily, I'm here, please open the gate. When we brought her home, she wouldn't speak to us, just stared out her window toward where Paradise Bay stood miles away. Yesterday, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I took Emma's backpack and added my phone, recording video. Then I told her she could go to Paradise Bay. David thought I'd lost my mind, but I had to know. I had to see what Emma saw. We drove to the abandoned park. The gates were rusted, covered in warning signs. Emma walked right up to them, and I swear to God, they swung open, unlocked themselves. The video on my phone showed what happened next. Emma walked into that abandoned park, overgrown with weeds, rides rusted and falling apart. She was holding someone's hand. I couldn't see anyone there. But on the video, you could see small handprints appearing in the dust next to Emma's footprints. Then I heard a child's voice, clear as day. Thank you for bringing her. I've been so lonely. We're going to be best friends forever. Emma smiled wider than I'd ever seen. Forever and ever? The last thing on the video before I grabbed Emma and ran was the sight of that abandoned carousel starting to spin. No power, no mechanism that could work after 20 years of neglect. But it spun, and I could hear carnival music playing. And there, sitting on one of the horses, was a little girl in a yellow dress, waving. We moved 3 states away last week, changed our phone numbers. Emma cries every night. She says Lily's angry, that she promised, that Lily's coming to take her back to Paradise Bay one way or another. This morning, I found muddy footprints leading to Emma's new room. Small footprints, child-sized. Some promises can't be broken. Some friends don't let you leave. If your child ever talks about a friend you've never seen, a place they've never been, please, listen to them. Because sometimes the imaginary friends are the most real thing of all, and sometimes they're the most dangerous.